Hey everyone, welcome to the Not a Lonely Coffee Break podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Maddie.
And I'm Meaghan. We're a podcast about coffee and work, but make it queer.
Always, but make it queer. We love queer things and queer stories.
Even
And
now,
one,
you
I'm
can't
sorry, what?
silence us.
I know, even now, you cannot silence us. No, I do. I'm glad you said that though, Meaghan, because I feel like I'm seeing a lot of people kind of be like, okay, do I want to be outspoken? Do I not want to be outspoken? Or are we going to leave these platforms? Are we not going to leave these platforms? Like, what are we going to do? And I've even seen some stories about like smaller queer owned businesses in some states and cities that have had to go under because they just can't pay their bills and they're being targeted and stuff. And so I just feel more empowered to do this
Mm-hmm.
show with you. I feel like it's our way of speaking out and continuing to be a voice for marginalized communities. So I'm so grateful to have you on this
Me
journey
too.
with me, and we're going to fight the fight together.
Yes,
You can't get rid of us.
I'm not going down.
We will keep talking about our queerness and our work stuff,
You can't stop me from drinking coffee. It's not going to happen.
right? You can't stop us. We have the cute mugs and everything,
There's no going back. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, no, but I am loving this recent sort of queer news story involving Representative Sarah McBride.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen this viral moment?
I saw a clip. Yeah. I
Oh my
was,
gosh, I loved it. So I find her to be a bit sassy, and I love the way that she's sort of fighting back by almost like giving them the microaggressions back.
mm-hmm.
And for anyone who maybe is choosing to stay off of the news or whatever, in case you missed it, there was a recent sort of like congressional committee meeting where a representative from Texas, Representative, I think Self is his last name.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he's maybe the chairperson of the committee, and he was deferring to Sarah McBride for like her turn to speak and share whatever she had brought to the committee. And when he passed it on to her, he misgendered her and said, like, I'm going to pass it to the representative of Delaware. And then, of course, referred to her as a him. She just kind of nonchalantly gave it right back and was like, thank you, Madam Chair. And then was going to just continue on her thing. But it was actually one of her colleagues, and I actually don't know which colleague it was, who actually like backed up and said,
Mm-hmm.
chairperson, like, what did you just say? Be respectful.
Right.
This is not okay. And instead of apologizing and just gendering Representative McBride as a female because she's a female, he adjourned the session.
Yeah.
He just said, fine, we're not going to do it we're not going to talk anymore. And I was like, seriously, you much rather just like continue, like, this is just ridiculous.
Like completely stop your work and the purpose of the meeting
Right?
just because you refuse to acknowledge a way that
To
someone
use,
wants to be
right.
represented. Yeah.
To use a she pronoun. Like, it's not
Hmm.
hurting you. So bothered by it.
Yeah. I really appreciated the congressman who stood up for her because he was immediately like, you're out of line.
Right.
Like, you're out of
Right.
line. You
Yeah.
need to, you know, have some decorum and to speak respectfully to other members in the committee. And her coming out, and I think they had like a small press conference basically just saying like, hey, like, they are so obsessed by the idea
Mhm.
and that they feel that their culture is being attacked, that they refuse to just work on what needs to be worked on. Focus on
Right.
your job as to why you were elected here, as to make the government efficient, to investigate things that need to be investigated by these committees and just move
Mhm.
on, but they are
Right.
so obsessed with everything else that's going on, trying to prove a point that it honestly is like there's no point to be made at this and just it's baffling, And I think she said that in her press conference. Is like, it's wild that you continue to do this over and over again when we're here to do a job that people elected us to do here.
Right, yeah, and that's almost that's the second time that she has pretty much said, like, "Look, I am not here to get involved in these cultural wars about
Mm-hmm.
nothing because I was elected by the people of," I think she's from Delaware, "the people of
Mm-hmm.
Delaware to do what needs to happen for the betterment of my community, my citizens." And that's what she's right. Like, that's what we need you to do. We need you to stop coming after our community, stop coming after gay people, trans people, non-binary people, immigrants, really everyone,
Mm-hmm.
and do your job.
And honestly, I mean, if you think about it, because with all the things that have been going on with federal government changes and so forth, I think that you saw the banned words, right? There was like a list of quote unquote banned words that we aren't supposed to use. And
Right.
of course, gender equity, gender based identity, things like that, gender affirming care. We're taking so much time to erase and pretend like these other that we have people in our community exist and that these things are happening, but they're just here to do a job. They're here to be employed. They're here to get paid, execute the work, and go home, you know?
Right.
And here you are taking time and money from our resources to make a scene at this point. From any business perspective, that's a bad move, right?
You would have, if they had been our coworkers, they would have been fired a long time
A
ago.
long time ago. Like you're
And it would have
taking
been a firing that I supported.
Like you're taking way too much time on this. Like just move the F on and
Right.
just do your freaking job. Some of the nonsense is that, well, that's their job, is to represent. They're not representing, they're just spouting rhetoric
Mm-hmm.
and disinformation, misinformation
Mm-hmm.
to
They really are. It's
push an agenda, and
dangerous.
it's
Yeah.
not productive in any way, shape, or form. And I guarantee you, in any large company, any functioning business, as they claim to say that that's how the government should be run, is not doing that because they know how disruptive that can be to the workforce. So it's nonsense at this
Mm-hmm.
point. So yeah, it's wild.
It's wild. But I no, this sort of brings me into something else that I've been sort of, I guess, dwelling on, ruminating on, because I did have an interesting conversation with someone recently. I'm not going to say who it was just to protect their privacy because this person was not intending it to be like, it was just a conversation, right? We were just two people trying to better understand each other. And I also know that this person is an advocate, an ally, but we were talking about DEI in the workplace. And this individual has a personal experience with being let go from a company um, a few years ago, actually. And they feel like it was because DEI was sort of being propped up. And they were kind of like, because I am a white man, I felt like I let go in favor of a woman because they wanted to be a woman led business. And so, yeah, they were kind of like, in that case, like, it wasn't based on qualifications. It was based on a person's gender. And they got rid of a lot of people who didn't meet that D area. And it to me, I was kind of like, that's a valid point. I think as with anything that people can overuse it, I guess. And there is people who maybe have implemented some things or done some things in the name of DEI that has caused it to have the bad reputation that it has, right? And I say this as someone who is pro DEI. I'm all for it. We need it. We have to have it, but I also can understand someone who feels like maybe they were, at least in this case, maybe not everyone's case, but in this case, this person made some really valid arguments for how DEI was used to harm them specifically. So I was just curious, maybe what your take on that was.
Well, I think that, the whole progress of DEI work is not to put a someone who's gay into a position. It's not the point to put someone who's Black or Latino into a position. The point is to reshape the way we think about the workforce, to rethink and reshape policies that could disrupt hiring processes or bias, a word that is no longer able to be used, but this implicit bias that we may want to choose people who more look like us or think like us, regardless of how that person may bring positive shaping to our businesses, to our communities. I think that it is possible that some businesses or large organizations could have thought of, well, I'm going to eliminate employee X and to put in this employee, other person B, right? But sure, it's possible. But the point of DEI is not to replace people just because of the base of their skin or whatnot. It's to reshape the way we think about others, reshape the way we think about our communities and our markets. Because, by the way, cisgender white people are not the only people buying stuff. They're not the only people putting work into our communities. And so I think, sure, if that person could have evidence that they were let go for those kind of things, but also could we also think that maybe this person so happened to be Black or Latino or gay or queer, but also could have been doing a better job, right? And so sometimes it's a hard pill to swallow. Sometimes is like, yeah, this person could have been more efficient than me, but is it because they're different or is it because they're getting the work done?
Well, I think in this case, I didn't see it like that at all. I saw it more as a company that had not implemented DEI protocols before. Or maybe they had, but it was kind of like different
A
kinds of
checkbox kind of
steps.
thing. Yeah.
And so then it seems like it was a larger company that had been bought out by a newer company. And it was almost kind of like an overcorrection.
Right.
And it was just kind of like, oh, we want to make sure that people associate us with DEI.
Right.
So we're going to sort of overcorrect and get rid of anyone who doesn't fit that box. And because there's this misconception about DEI, it ended up being harmful
to others. Yeah.
to others who were qualified and getting the work done, right? This person is a hard worker. They'd been with this company for a long time and had actually participated in some of the smaller DEI initiatives that were there. Like, I think they had some of the, what do you call them? The employee resource groups. They were part of some of those that were maybe a little bit different than their own community so that they could learn and listen. I thought it was really awesome. But yeah, it was an interesting conversation.
Right.
And really, really made me think about, like,
What could have been
yes,
the negative on this front? Yeah.
right. Yes, DEI is meant to be this. It's meant to be something that can only strengthen our workforce, but there have been instances where, yeah, maybe it was used in a harmful way because someone didn't have the education that they needed.
Right. And that's what I was gonna kind of underline is like it's the education, it's the protocol and policies that are being put in place when we are thinking about DEI work. Because, when I was doing research on this years ago, it was always the first thing that was always said in these trainings and these discussions was we are not trying to checkbox. We're not trying to, just put on, okay, for us to say we're supporting the gay community or the queer community or the Black and brown community, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. That's not what this is about. Again, it's about changing the way we look and perceive our community so that we're not, stopping others from succeeding, from stopping our businesses and communities from succeeding. But yeah, definitely.
Making sure that people have access to the things that they need to be successful. Because even though, yes, there are additional protections in place, DEI can also be like making sure that people with disabilities have the accommodations so that they can be in the corporate office on the 20th floor of your office building. And that's DEI.
Right. And I don't have the numbers here, I don't have the research here right now, but It's plain if you look at, because there was a lot of moves, or especially on, I think there were some things on Wall Street, and that there was rules that, hey, you have to have X amount of people on your board that represent certain communities, and you have to have these people in place. A lot of people found that those things were harmful because you're like, well, we're just putting this one type of person into place because you say we have to. But that's never what this was supposed to be about. This was supposed to be about open thinking, progression, progress,
Different
perspectives. And that's, I think that's also what Congressperson McBride was trying to say, is that, hey, look, this is not about the culture war. This is not about these games. It's about progression. It's about progress. Like, can we just move on and just get the work done? Because regardless, we all know what we're supposed to be doing here. And I think that beyond the DEI work that a lot of companies or businesses and communities are making, we still have our day to day. We still have to hit goals and metrics. And there's so many moving parts to this that it's not just about putting certain people in place. It's about the progression, about progress.
Yeah. No, for sure.
It wears me out. It wears me out.
It really does. And we said this when we did the DEI episode. We said we would probably keep talking about it just
It's going to keep happening.
We're gonna, it's a hot topic right now in the workplaces. There are companies that I think are benefiting from continuing their DEI. Shout out Costco. And then there are other companies that are, I don't know, hopefully they're starting to realize the importance of DEI and that communities do value that representation, that effort made, because it matters, right? It matters that you aren't just there for the cisgender white person.
Right. And it's kind of like this erasure of history, right?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Okay, this let's pretend this never happened kind of mentality. But why? Why do we want to pretend that this never happened? I mean, humans are repetitive creatures, whether we like it or not. We are repetitive. We like routine. We tend to do the same things over and over again, even though they're not the right thing to do. So why would we want to erase history if we think we're just going to keep making the same mistakes? And it's not just about the queer culture, but it's about women and the Black community and the African American community and the things that we have just grown from. Why are we afraid to acknowledge the growth that we've had? It's mind-boggling.
It's dangerous.
It's very dangerous.
And it's harmful. But I do find it, I mean, honestly, Meaghan, I feel like some of the stuff I'm seeing, I see it and I'm like, are you serious? Like, in what world does this happen? So have you, and I actually discovered this from Rachel Maddow's show.
Okay.
Anyone who watches her show, and she was talking about how, again, in the name of DEI, different government agencies are sort of erasing things, just like you were talking about. Well, the Department of Defense, there was a leak on like a list of things that were going to be basically erased or deleted from the websites, the archives, all of that. And there are many frivolous nonsense things that are being erased, but two that I just was like, are you serious? So the first one is photographs, articles, anything that mentions the airplane, the Enola Gay, which is the airplane that, I mean, it's probably the most famous airplane in American history, at least, if not world history, because it was the airplane that dropped the atomic bomb on Japan. And it has nothing to do with homosexuality.
Absolutely
nothing
not.
to do with
It was a name.
it was
People were
the
named.
pilot. Yes, it was the pilot's mother's name. And like that was a common thing in World War II, in World War I even, that they would name their airplanes and like write on it. And they would name it after their girlfriends, mothers, grandmothers. Like it was a variety of people that they were named after. And he chose his mother's name, who happened to be Enola Gay. So like, what are you going to do? Like erase his mom from history? So that was on the thing. There's also there was also some sort of prominent military person whose profile was going to have to be erased as well because his last name was gay.
Right.
So it's literally like they just typed in the word gay
Yes.
and then they were like, oh, anything that pops up, we're going to delete it.
Yeah. It really makes me feel like, and this is in some ways because there's a lot of pros and cons to like AI, right? And sloppy work can be done with
Mhm.
AI. I mean, AI is a tool. It's not
Yeah, it's a
supposed to
tool.
complete your work for you. And so to
Right.
me, it's kind of triggering. Like, are they literally using like an AI or word search finder? Let me just type this in and give me all the, the pages that have these specific things. And I'm just like, I'm not even going to review it. I'm not even going to look at it. This is just going to be gone. It's sloppy. It's ineffective. That's not how we should be working in the first place. So that's just what it kind of came out to me. I'm like, obviously, someone was just like, well, let me just use this and
Like
see what I can do.
it's nonsense is what it
It's
is.
nonsensical. Yeah.
But it also, and I think I shared this before too, thinking about AI, right? It just creates more of a bias in AI because we're removing information that AI will pull from to feed back that information to us
Right.
when we go to have it do our work.
Yeah. I'm convinced that, a certain group of people is just really, really driving to want to make people ignorant and poor.
No, I
It's,
I
it's,
1,000%
yeah,
agree with that.
it's apparent. And, for a lot of people that have worked really, really hard to overcome barriers and to,
Mhm.
I mean, there's so many people that have been, you know, who are a minority or disenfranchised that have been like, you know what, I'm going to ignore these barriers and I'm going to do the very best I can so that I can overcome whatever I'm going through so that I can survive and so that I can have a fruitful life. And that's just being all swept away. Like
Mhm.
all whatever you did, everything that you've worked for, everything, I mean, all the people in history that within this country that have, overcame such trials and had to basically, I mean, just advance in a system that didn't want them to advance are just being eliminated. And it's frightening for the future.
Mhm.
I think that that's why I really love coming on here because I really think it's important that not to ignore it, not to be well, I'm going to take a step back and, just kind of, and everyone has their
Mhm.
place, but I'm not going to do that. So,
No, yeah, I agree. There's so much hate. There's so much bigotry. I um I just like every day I'm just like seriously, seriously.
at this point,
Um
what is it? We live in the onion. The
yeah.
onion.
And so yeah, so in today's seriously, and I know we're going a little over, but we can if I have to cut things,
Yeah.
give this more stuff. So I on Facebook, I'm part of like some professional groups, right, that are connected to different kinds of mental health professionals. And in those groups, there's social workers, there's counselors, there's all sorts of people that are sort of in the same bubble as me in terms of professional. Well, I had heard about this before, but I hadn't really investigated it too much. And today I actually came across someone who was just sharing something they also just recently discovered, introduced in the Texas legislature,
Typical.
in the Texas House. So it's just been proposed, so nothing has happened with it yet, but a proposal is basically is that it would criminalize any person who causes or contributes to the social transitioning of a minor or for providing gender affirming care to minors, including but not limited to changes in clothing, pronouns, hairstyle, name, etc. So this applies to really any kind of professional, including medical professionals.
Mhm.
But it also applies to like teachers who acknowledge the pronouns of their students or teachers who like affirm a child's name that they use, counselors who are providing therapy to a child who is experiencing gender dysphoria or body dysmorphia. Like it's just, and now they're saying that they're going to criminalize it. So basically, if a parent or somebody believes that you did something to encourage this person in their identity and to be who they are, you can get criminal charges filed against you.
Yeah. It's a blatant, targeting of citizens to fuel the prison pipeline. I mean, we've seen it in other cultures. We've seen it in the Black community. We've seen it in the Latin community. And now they're just fueling it in the queer community.
So for me, and yeah, right now the language is focused on minors, but it's causing them to distrust even going to professionals now because they're like, I don't know if I can trust you. I don't know if you're safe. We're going to see. I mean, did we not learn our lesson with doing this with abortion? People are still going to access the kind of care that they need. They're just going to do it in unsafe and harmful ways, right? We're going to have kids accessing black market. And this has always been a thing, right? But it's going to just increase. They're going to use the black market to try to get access to the hormones or the testosterone that they need. They're going to pump it into their bodies and
do it in unsafe or without a professional
conditions
that could help them do it in a safe environment. Yeah. Yeah. For someone who is in an industry who is supposed to
be there for everyone.
Yeah. Help their community, help people, all people. And criminalizing doesn't help anybody. Regardless of the beliefs that you have, you don't need to criminalize them. You don't need to put them in a position and disrupt their lives because you want to put them in jail or prison or find them in a way that disrupts their complete way of life.
Right. Or just because you don't agree with it.
Just
no
because
one
you
is
don't agree.
asking you to agree with it.
And you don't have to practice, right?
Yeah.
Plenty of professionals have the freedom to practice and serve certain clients that they want to serve, specialize in certain things.
Right.
Nobody's making you do any of that. I think that, it's just dangerous. I don't like it. I don't like it.
Well, and I think too, gender affirming care, everyone always associates it with that's for the trans community, but it's not. It's for everyone. Honestly, a woman going to a gynecologist is gender affirming care.
Right. Well, there's, I think when I was growing up, it was never around queer issues, but, it's always the issue of can a man be affectionate? Can a man be nurturing? Or vice versa? Can a woman be, have a strong hand or be assertive? And just simple things like that. What does it mean to be within a certain gender? And I think that has become a lot more fluid in our understanding because it doesn't have to be a rigid thing. It doesn't need to be because it's obviously unhealthy to think that you have to fit a square peg into a round hole. It's not helpful and it's not healthy for mentally. A lot of times when we're not able to get the care that we need through mental health care or through physical health care, it leads to, like you were saying, you're self-medicating. It leads to self-medicating. It leads to an unsafe way of trying to get through that on your own when you could easily access professionals that can just get you where you need to be.
Right. Well, and just also just isolation, right? Because if you don't trust going to seek professionals, right, you might also start isolating from the community because you're I don't know who I can trust. Even if it's a professional who's saying that they can help you, you're going to doubt it. You're going to be can I really say this to you?
Right.
Can I really ask this question?
In big picture, it's, they want us to use less of public resources. They want us to use less of anything. I guess they just don't want people asking for help at this point. But all the things that they are trying to put in place are going to stress the community and in different ways because you're only going to have one narrow outlet of what people can do.
Mhm.
And it just sounds to me that they just want to funnel, I mean, it's not a secret. I mean, they just want to funnel all the funding to certain departments just to fuel a certain like criminal justice or the prison system. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. That's just I'll put my bet on that one. I'll see you in 10 years and I want my money,
Yes, $1 billion
I'll put it
for
down
each of
right now.
us. Great chat today.
Yeah, thank you. I need to get that out.
Lots going on around us, for sure. But I am out of coffee.
I'm empty too.
I actually have been like, I feel like I probably have been putting like coffee in an IV because so I'm like working to make money, but then I like have a second job now where I'm working on my house
Yeah.
and renovating my house, and it's one thing after the next. So
Exhaustion has set in.
I am still not back in my home, but we are getting a little bit closer to it.
At this point, get a tiny home, find like 10 acres of land, and
And
start a
just travel.
farm.
I mean, here's the thing though, Meaghan. I would have to have 2 tiny homes, one for me and my spouse, and one for our 6 animals.
Yeah, for
Because
the puppers and the
we have
kitties.
zoo.
And they do not sleep outside.
No, they do not sleep outside. They are inside animals.
Right.
All of them. But anyway, I am out of coffee, which is probably a good thing because I need to sleep tonight.
Yeah.
But always a great chat. I love having a little
Thank you.
coffee break with you.
Thank you, friends, for joining us.
Yes, thank you for continuing to listen. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and share it with your friends. Love to see our community grow. Welcome to any new listeners that we may have. You're always welcome with us.
Be sure to follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and more. We also have a Patreon. Join our coffee break crew. And finally, do not forget, save the date. We're going to be at Dallas Pride. Visit us at our table. We will have goodies. We will want to talk to you. Let's take pictures. I want to know who you are. Yeah. So
I'm so
come join
excited
us.
about that.
Me too. I'm like ready for it. I want it to be tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we will be at Pride. Whatever may come, we will be there.
We will be there. If they cancel it, we will be there.
We will be there.
Anyways.
Thanks again for tuning in to another great episode of Not a Lonely Coffee Break. Again, we are your hosts. I'm Maddie.
And I'm Meaghan.
And
cheers, queers.